Alright, get out my pub.
Did you know, we now offer channel memberships? You can also leave a tip. Your support is vital to the growth of this channel. Please be sure to like, comment and subscribe. Thank you and enjoy the video.
The quest for lost media is ongoing and ever-present. Across the world and web, people search tirelessly for pieces of nostalgia lost to time. But while everyone and their brother searches for well-known pieces like Saki Sorno Bashi, Slamfest 99 and lost episodes of Doctor Who, there are thousands of other pieces still waiting to be found that no one is looking for. These are those pieces. This is lesser-known lost media.
Welcome back to the channel, everybody. It is I, your host, Mr. Sean, here with Volume 24 of Lesser Known Lost Media. Hope you liked the Season 2 intro. Figured it's time to change things up a bit. If you like the intro, please leave a comment about it. If you don't like the intro, please leave a comment about that. I want to know how you feel about it. If you're new to the channel, welcome. Please don't be intimidated by the Volume 24. These can be watched in any order. But what we do in this series is we have 5 pieces of lesser known lost media that you just don't see a lot of people on YouTube talking about. And how this works is we start with 4 family-friendly, safe-for-work pieces of lost media. There'll be a brief ad break where I talk about my business, Chimera Miniatures, and then we get into the final, not-safe-for-work piece of lost media. But before we get started with all that, there is an update to a previous video. In a video last month, I talked about the Little Shop of Horrors animated series and how there was still one episode called It's a Wonderful Leaf where the English dub was not available. Well, as of November 2nd of this year, that episode has been found by the Little Shop Archive, making this series completely found. I am in no way saying that it being on a video I made for the month of October is the reason it was found. No, I'm not making a joke. I'm not saying that at all. But it just goes to show that it is important to let people know that these pieces are missing, because who knows who might actually have it and be able to provide it and make this media go from lost to found. It's important to keep mentioning these lesser known pieces because in some cases nobody's looking for them. But with that being said, let's get into today's video. At number 1, we have My Little Pony: The Crown of Friendship, partially found recordings of a Chinese stage show from 2019. The My Little Pony Crown of Friendship was a stage show that debuted in China in October of 2019 and reran in the summer of 2021. Now, this stage play was made by Happy Kids in October 2019. I assume that means a company called Happy Kids and not happy child labor people. But it was made for Chinese audiences, and the unique thing about this show was the costumes the performers wore, as unlike the full-body mascot costumes most MLP live shows used, these allow for movement of the eyes, mouth, and tail via puppeteering. There are also stagehands and simpler human costumes for ensemble characters like the Changelings and the Royal Guard. It also mentioned that this stage play had original songs, none of which have leaked online. Another unique aspect of this show is that unlike most stage shows of the past, Crown of Friendship actually had a unique plot, which was summarized as follows. Princess Twilight Sparkle is tasked by Princess Celestia to throw her very own royal ball in Ponyville. Twilight Sparkle's friends are excited to have the opportunity to help. As they struggle to come up with a theme for the ball, Princess Celestia sends a treasure, the Tiara of Friendship, and a cryptic message. You decide how this crown should be used. Twilight Sparkle decides to call the ball Friendship Fest and make it an annual event, choosing friendship ambassadors and throwing a ball to celebrate. The ponies are eager to wear the crown, but strangely, their cutie marks and magic begin to fade. Twilight Sparkle knows that she has to find a way to save her friends and Ponyville. Can Twilight Sparkle help the ponies find their lost cutie marks and magic and rediscover the power of friendship? And that, ladies and gentlemen, felt very weird coming out of my mouth. The stage show premiered on October 12, 2019 and was performed in 21 cities including Shanghai, Zhuhai, Shenzhen, Guangzhou, Xiamen, Nanjing, Suzhou, Beijing, and Hangzhou. I'm sure I didn't get those correct. Due to it running twice as well as being a bit more traditional, there are more photos of this show as well as a proper video that's about 2 minutes long uploaded by the Dupiburu user By Derpy Buru user, I guess that's some kind of social media, I don't know. However, this clip is quite low quality and doesn't have subtitles. So, while I have never seen a single episode of My Little Pony Friendship is Magic, I know that it is hugely popular both with its target audience of young children as well as the brony community, so to speak. But I did not know that it was popular enough that China itself got its own unique stage play. I think that's very interesting. I definitely think that it is rare that we see a stage show for a property that is very popular outside of its country of origin. So in this case, I could see America having My Little Pony live. I did not realize China had a big audience for that show. But with just how, fervorous especially the bronies, how much dedication they have for their beloved series, it does surprise me that not one person was able to, at the very least, sneak in and get a full recording with a hidden camera of this entire show. You'd think that there would be no way the bronies would let a piece of MLP Friendship is Magic history go undocumented, but here we are. At number 2, we have The Will of Prometheus, A Trip to Hell and Beyond, or its original German, Das Testament des Prometheus, eine Reise zur Hölle und darüber hinaus, also referred to in some sources as Prometheus Unleashed, der Entfesselt Prometheus, sorry, I'm not good with German, and Orpheus, A Journey to Hell and Beyond, and it's an alleged book by German historian, writer, and former SS officer Otto Rahn. It was to become his third published work after Crusade Against the Grail in 1933 and Lucifer's Court in 1937. However, the notes for the book went missing after Rahn's death in March of 1939. A little side note, he had resigned from the SS as he was openly homosexual and had been given a post as punishment for one of his open escapades, as he was to be a prison guard at Dachau, and he did not want to do that, and so he resigned and in the end ended up taking his own life in a frozen mountain area. At the time of writing, Rahn also had several other novels in the works, including Sebastian, Lauren, Montsalvat and Golgotha, Selon Dieu et Raison, Emmanuel Glockenkraut, etc. Some of these manuscripts are believed to be in possession of Otto's niece, Ingeborg Romer-Rahn, who had been interviewed by the film director Richard Stanley for his Rahn documentary, The Secret Glory. Now, the history of this work is that Rahn was inspired by Heinrich Schliemann's discovery of Troy, and Otto Rahn dreamed of finding the Holy Grail, based on legends describing it as a jewel from the crown of Lucifer, the fallen angel. He believed it to be a stone of meteoric origin. Furthermore, he identified the legendary Grail castle, Montsalvat, with Montségur, the stronghold of the medieval religious movement known as Cathars. Rahn thought that the Cathars had been in possession of the stone and that it may still be located somewhere in the Montségur area. He described his search in his first book, Crusade Against the Grail, and in 1936 he accepted Heinrich Himmler's offer to join the SS and I don't know what that means. And 1 year after that, in 1937, he published the second book, Lucifer's Court. In the last chapter of Lucifer's Court, Rahn mentioned his plans for a third book, dedicated to his expedition to Iceland, which he undertook as a member of the Honorarabe. Tomorrow morning, I will remove from the pile of paper on my right the stone I brought from Iceland. I will begin a new book as a sequel to this journal, which I have now finished. The cover page was written in Icelandic, Arctic Circle, and others mostly in the heart of Europe and in my German homeland. The second mention of the book was in Rahn's letter on the 1st of December 1937, in which he mentioned that he is intending to follow up Lucifer's Court with a book called Prometheus Unleashed. Finally, the book is brought up in Rahn's letter to Himmler on the 9th of June 1938, in which he refers to it as Das Testament des Prometheus, eine Reise zur Hölle und darüber hinaus. However, in 1939, Rahn resigned from the SS and died under mysterious circumstances, so the fate of his manuscript remains unknown. While Rahn's niece Ingeborg Romer-Rahn alleged that it had been destroyed by Otto's mother after the war, it is possible that the manuscript still exists. This entry is interesting to me because of all the things, when we think about World War II, when we think about that era in Germany, we think about the massive loss of life. That's the one that always comes up because ultimately that is the most tragic. But what we also forget is just how much culture the Germans destroyed back then. I mean, in a previous video, we talked about how they burned all the books in the first ever LGBTQ plus research center that wasn't trying to show that those people were somehow deviant, but rather simply wanted to understand them and help them. And that was the first thing that the Germans back then destroyed. And the fact that, this man who was an occultist, it sounds like he joined, he joined the SS as it was the only way to continue his research in an oppressive era, and he whatever he discovered, whatever he might have known, it is thought now to be gone, destroyed, and that is even if it was his own mother that destroyed it after the war, it was ultimately the German government that is the reason that happened, the reason he died, the reason that he had to flee, that he couldn't just research and all that. And if this exists, great, but I think it almost serves more of a purpose as something lost, as just another thing that we need to remember how awful, beyond simply the loss of human life, which is terrible. Don't get me wrong, that's clearly the worst part, but that's not all we lost. And I think it's important to remember that. At number 3, we have Superman and Jimmy Olsen art by Jack Kirby, partially found comic material from the early 1970s. Now, for those of you who don't know, Jack Kirby was a comic book artist who created many characters and teams which are now staples of the medium, most of which he did for Marvel comics like Captain America and the Fantastic Four, but contract and attribution disputes between Kirby and Marvel led him to quit and begin working for their rival DC Comics in the early 1970s. It was then that Kirby began work on his magnum opus, The Fourth World. The Fourth World was a massive epic storyline that spanned 4 comic book titles: Superman's pal Jimmy Olsen, The Forever People, New Gods, and Mr. Miracle. It also included a graphic novel that served as the climax for the story arc, The Hunger Dogs. It began with the publication of Superman's pal Jimmy Olsen number 133 in October of 1970. Initially reluctant to draw a character like Superman that he did not create, Kirby made a new design for the character using a new S emblem and other minor changes. Unfortunately, DC executives were not happy with this and made noted Superman artists Al Pacino and Murphy Anderson draw over Kirby's designs with more traditional looks for Superman and his titular pal Jimmy Olsen. As such, most of the original pencil panels that were included those characters in Superman's pal Jimmy Olsen and the Forever People are lost. Right now, we have like a side-by-side view of how Kirby drew Superman versus how Anderson redrew him. You can definitely see Superman, he's got kind of a thicker brow. His features are more rough, I would say, as opposed to the traditional, I would not say that Kirby's Superman is traditionally handsome, more rugged, and clearly they went back to the look they had wanted. Also, we can see in this panel that, one, you have the facial differences again, but also look at that S on his chest. It is very different than the traditional Superman S we have all come to know. This was just Kirby trying to make the character his own, but again, this is the one on the right is how they had Murphy redraw over the pencil sketches where you see the more traditional Superman. Jimmy Olsen has some similar changes, but ultimately his look was changed far less than Superman's. Now, as to the availability of these, other people working for DC at the time, such as Kirby's then assistant Mark Evanier and future New Teen Titans and Crisis on Infinite Earths writer Marv Wolfman, did get to see Kirby's original pencils, and some pieces of his original art do still exist, including an unused cover sketch. The rest, though, have not been seen anywhere since the initial redraws that were done before publication. So unfortunately, it sounds like not only was this lost, quite a bit of it was just outright destroyed by having the other artists redraw over it, but it's definitely interesting to see Kirby's take. Kirby was a immensely talented artist, and we owe much of our modern comic book landscape to him, so it is interesting to see how his take on Superman differs from the traditional one that we know. Alright guys, coming in at number 4, we have a viewer-requested entry. This piece was requested by subscriber Blue Baron 6858, and the Blue Baron has requested Funky Cops, a partially found 4Kids dub of a French animated series circa 2003 to 2008. So, as stated, Funky Cops is a French animated series about 2 cops in San Francisco during the 1970s. In the US, it was licensed by 4Kids Entertainment and aired on the Fox Box, later renamed 4Kids TV, but was quickly canceled due to dismal ratings, becoming an online exclusive in the US. The rest of the 4Kids dub series was later seen online at 4kidstv.com, but as of May 2009, it was removed. The original French-English dub currently appears on Kabillion On Demand on some services, most commonly Charter, as well as various channels on YouTube, but the actual 4Kids dub is lost. The 4Kids dub featured the voices of Andrew Rannells as Dick Kowalski, who was renamed Jack in the US dub. Well, I guess not making a character named Dick. Reginald Metcalf as Ace Anderson, Frederick B. Owens as Captain Dobbs, and featured Eric Stewart as the voice director. As of right now, there are 19 episodes missing, and you know what? Just for fun, let's name them. Long Live the King, The Thief of Hearts, Funky Bankers, The End of Disco, A Woman Scorned, Cruise Control, The Earth Mothers, Read My Mind, French Disconnection, and then these were the ones that were aired, that was the ones that were on Foxbox. These are the missing episodes from the 4Kids website. All Cars in San Francisco, Double Trouble, Daycare Detectives, Escape from Alcatraz, Director's Cut, False Idols, Something in the Air, Back to School, Danger with the Rangers Part 1 and Part 2, and there currently does not exist a high-quality closing ending credits. So yes, if anyone watching this happens to have downloaded all of that at some point and has it on a floppy drive or a CD-ROM or maybe even a modern-day USB and you'd like to upload them to the internet, I'm sure the Blue Baron would be very happy. Alright guys, now before we get into that penultimate not safe for work piece of lost media, please allow me a moment of your time to talk about my business. At Chimera Miniatures, I make essentially 2 types of minis. I make 1 custom kit-bashed minis, which of course I take bits and pieces from various miniatures and cobble them together into something that is completely unique and one of a kind that you will not find anywhere else. The other specialty of mine is not safe for work HeroClix. I have all kinds of miniatures available that feature popular superhero comic book figures in their birthday suits. I, of course, also have the channel memberships, my Patreon, if you'd like to support the channel that way, but of course, always the best way to support the channel is to check the links and consider buying a miniature. And as I've stated in a previous video, I do now have a tier on my Patreon where you are entered every month to win a free miniature, and unlike what I can give away on YouTube, I am able to include the not safe for work miniatures in the giveaway based on Patreon. So right now for this month, if you join the Miniature Fanatics tier over on Patreon, you are entered to win this not safe for work Dawnstar HeroClix. Dawnstar, of course, being the winged tracker member of the Legion of Superheroes here in all her buxom glory. And of course, if you want to help the channel but don't have the ability to do so monetarily, that is perfectly fine. Please be sure to like, please be sure to comment, please be sure to subscribe. Share the video around, help with the algorithm, because the more people that see these videos, the more subscribers I can get, and the more minis I can potentially sell. Again, we reached the amazing milestone of 500 subscribers, which allowed me to open up channel memberships, and let's see if by this time next year we can get all the way to 1,000 subscribers, which would be absolutely phenomenal, and already we're doing far better than I thought this channel ever would, so thank you so much. And with that being said, let's get into this last piece of not safe for work lost media. So at number 5, we have Natalie Mains' Lost Death Threat Letter from 2003. Now, of course, Natalie Mains is the lead vocalist of the famous American country music band, the Dixie Chicks, or now simply known as the Chicks. In 2003, shortly after the then President of the United States, George W. Bush, declared war on Iraq, the Dixie Chicks spoke out strongly against it. Lead vocalist, of course, Natalie Mains, who this is about, held a public hearing in London 10 days before the invasion, stating she was ashamed to be from the same state as Bush. Now, the problem is, country music fans, kind of a lot of Republicans, a lot of that, so they weren't happy. Country music fans ridiculed the band, calling them traitors, and resulting in many impacts, including a massive drop in sales and sponsorships, but also a new interest and respect from non-country music fans in the left wing, and a short-lived humorous rivalry with Toby Keith. Now, their record label forced Mains to make a public statement apologizing for her comments against Bush, but by the time she did this, it was kind of considered to be far too late. Many fans responded to Mains' statement with vitriolic, angry hate mail. One particularly angry fan, whose identity has yet to be confirmed, wrote a graphic death threat to Mains. He made the circumstances of how he was going to kill her very specific. He had a method, location, date, and weapon in mind, with one known quote reading, "You will be shot dead at your show in Dallas," referring to an upcoming scheduled Chicks performance not long away. Frightened by the letter, Mains decided to add extra security to her public appearances, and when the aforementioned Dallas concert was subsequently held, the band were escorted in and out by police. No attempts were made to harm them. The threat did, however, play a major role in the band's lengthy hiatus until 2013. Mains has never allowed the letter to leak and has never shown it to members of the press. No copies of the letter have surfaced online. She has commented on it, saying she will never let anyone see it because of its bone-chilling graphic nature. The only other released content known to be from the letter is a few words contained in the lyrics to their 2006 hit, Not Ready to Make Nice, those being "Shut up and sing or your life is over." In the same year, a documentary about the controversy was titled after the quote, "Shut up and sing." It is not known if Mains or the FBI currently hold a copy of the letter. Now, this one is interesting to me for a couple reasons. One, it just shows you how nuts some people can get if they think that one of their favorite performers, who they have no connection to beyond enjoying their music or the content they create, does something that goes against what they want them to do. People have this weird concept of ownership of artists and celebrities, and they get very upset when they go against what they want. And I think that is definitely, we've seen other cases in this world where someone, showed up to an actress's house and unalived her because he was offended that she was in a sex scene in a movie. So, this writing a terrible letter is not in any way, shape, or form out of the ordinary for this kind of fanaticism, so to speak. But I've always thought the whole thing surrounding the Chicks and their statements was very interesting from a marketing perspective, because the thing is, as country singers, they had to know that their fan base were mostly, country fans who typically, if we're going with stereotypes here, so if you're a country fan and you're not these things, I apologize, but this is what, the general consensus on country fans is a bunch of right-wing hicks that were, God and America first, thank God we're going over to Iraq to give those people the sweet light of freedom and Jesus and all that, and, they loved GW. And to openly speak out against all that wasn't gonna go well for the band. They seem to have forgotten their market base. Cool, you had a platform and you used it, and I respect that. It was a great move morally. From a business standpoint, not so much. And, while it did give them more respect and notice from the more liberal side of things, I don't see I don't see the Chicks headlining any of those music festivals. So I think ultimately, yeah, it was kind of a weird business move. But that being said, they of course did not deserve to be threatened just for having an opinion and making it known, which is a right that all people in this country of America are supposed to have. But sadly, in many cases, it seems we do not. I do hope that they were at least able to discover who wrote the note, and that even if he did not face any formal punishment, I feel like we would have heard about that he was given a stern talking to and put the fear of quote-unquote God into him so that he never one threatens or attempts to make good on his threats to anyone in the future. It sucks when you can be put in fear of your life for having an opinion. And that's our video, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. How do you feel about these Lost Media videos coming out on Saturdays now? For those of you who are new to the channel, typically I have been putting out one Lost Media video a week, usually on Wednesday, and then one just general, like, whatever video on Saturday. But I'm switching it up. I wondered if I would get more views on the Lost Media video if it came out on Saturday as opposed to in the middle of the week. So we'll see how that goes. This is the second time I've done this. Let me know in the comments how you feel. Do you want them to go back to Wednesday? Do you like them on Saturday? And of course, if you have ideas for other videos which you'd like to see in the miscellaneous slot, please let me know in the comments as well. As always, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Check the links, buy a mini, join the Patreon, or become a channel member. You can also give me a tip if you're feeling generous. And with that being said, I'd like to give a big shout out to my patrons and members, both members of the Beta Club over on Patreon, J-Dog and Arthur D. Gonzalez Martin. Thank you so much for being part of the channel, for your continued support, and everybody, just make sure if you really want to help the channel that you show up and join me in the next video. Until then, I'm Mr. Sean, this is Chimera Miniatures, and I sincerely hope that you alpha great day and an even beta tomorrow. Bye-bye!